And good morning, everybody. Welcome into the Pattison Avenue Phanatics show. I am your host, James Scorza, filling in for TK once again this week. With me, as always, is the group of companions on this Saturday morning. Big Mike Loria, what's going on, brother?
What's going on? Mike Lorio is in the house, guys. Thank you for
Yeah,
having me
man.
on
I
here.
appreciate you coming on, man. Joey Marks, what's happening, dude?
Good morning, Philly.
Yeah, it is a good morning. Hopefully for some in this team, and unlike some, basically, well, it's another story for another time. Anyway, we got so much to get to today. We got spring training baseball heading for the Phillies. They're looking very sharp in spring training. Sixers starting to struggle a little bit. Eagles look like they're passing the blame a little bit, which is surprising. And the Flyers, I got a lot of problems with you Flyers anyway. So Joey, where do we get on this Saturday morning of Philly
We
sports?
we're going to start with your Philadelphia Eagles, because a lot of is being made about some of the regime change and some of the changes that are about to occur,
Right.
both with the OC and the DC. The new OC being Brian Johnson, and the new DC being I don't even know how to say his last name, but
Desai? Sean Desai?
Desai,
Chance,
yeah.
yeah, decide, yeah.
So, so he's a Temple product, and the regime change seems like it's going to come also with some roster changes. So I really want to start this with getting your take. You are going to be put in the position of Howie Roseman. Howie knows that he's not going to be able to, and he's said this outwardly, that he's not going to be able to re-sign everybody. So he's going to have to pick and choose. And you're
Mhm.
going to have to pick your poison of like who you want versus who you don't.
Right.
Out of this list, you guys get to choose one.
Hmm.
You have Brandon Graham, Cox, Miles
Hmm.
Sanders, Bradbury, Hardgrave, CJ Gardner Johnson. Out of those guys, who are you keeping? Mike, you get to sign one.
I'm signing Gardner Johnson
Okay.
because in the size defense, he runs something very similar to what the Baltimore Ravens had back when they had Terrell Suggs and Ed Reed.
Mhm.
It's that style of defense, more or less. Like when I heard about him being hired, I did a little bit of research on him, and a lot of the talking heads were kind of pointing back to that defense. Like he was very instrumental in helping that defense, that style of defense. So you get Gardner Johnson on there. You already have Hassan Reddick, and they're comparing Hassan Reddick to being like this defense's version of Terrell Suggs. If that's the case, I'm going to take that. I love Brandon Graham, but at this point in his career, yeah, you're going to be in another uniform. Fletch, you should have been in another uniform a year ago.
Mhm.
So Miles Sanders, he could be replaced. And I'm a Penn State guy. I love Miles Sanders, but he can be replaced.
Yeah.
So for me, it's Gardner Johnson. That's who you got to lock up because he's going to be your Ed Reed in this defense.
Okay.
And to me, to me, that's who I'm signing. Regard, like if you can't get it done now, franchise, you got to tag them. The Eagles don't use a tag a lot, but tag them.
Yeah,
J-
for sure.
James?
Yeah, I got to go with James Bradbury. I think the one guy you got to keep in that secondary, especially like you said there, Mike, with C.J. Gardner Johnson. I think that's the one thing I take out of it too. I think with Bradbury, you need. I think maybe what you do with Bradbury is that you sign him, and I think what you do in the draft is draft a cornerback. I know there's a lot of big cornerbacks out there, and I'm a big Georgia Bulldog fan, and I like that kid from I think his name is Ringo, Kelly Ringo, and I would like
Mhm.
to see him come in with Bradbury and obviously keep Avante around too and C.J. Garner Johnson. But yeah, I think the one guy you definitely have to keep, especially on that secondary too, is James Bradbury.
Yeah, it's been widely talked about the fact that with Maddox and Goddard,
Yeah.
that Howie made it a priority to just get them extended before any of this happened, which tells me that Howie was still evaluating these guys, and that's one of the reasons why he didn't extend them sooner.
Hmm.
For me, the lost soul in all of this is going to be Marcus Epps,
Hmm.
because Marcus Epps is going to probably wind up going somewhere. And I wouldn't say make a name for himself, but he just is going to be a missing body. And now you're going to have to depend on Kayvon Wallace, which is why I agree with Mike in the sense that if you're going to lose Marcus Epps and you're going to have to lean on Kayvon Wallace, who has not shown you much at all,
Hmm.
having a stalwart like CJ Gardner Johnson in that back into that secondary is what you need. He's not going to be the Brian Dawkins quite yet, but he's got the chops to, I think, be more of a hybrid Eric Weddle kind of guy, a safety, because he likes to play a little bit of the zone, but he likes to break on the ball. You saw that when he played. I was on EOP Live this Wednesday, and I said, it's amazing to me how many people um, in the city they value CJ, but how many people don't view him that he could have had a better season than he did because yeah, he got hurt. We already know that. But prior to him getting hurt, he was leading the league in interceptions with 6. That's
Yeah,
difficult for a guy in a safety position, especially a young safety, to be leading the league in picks. And I've had this conversation with Dave Arnold in the sense that the guy that I liked, Tavon Diggs, on his team, who's a corner, but his rookie season he came out like gangbusters, and I saw some of the similar things as far as playmaking ability from CJ. So yeah, whether it's through franchise tag, I think that if you're Howie, you would tag him if push comes to shove, but I would honestly want to sign him long term. He's only 25. I would want to sign him for a 4-year deal.
yeah. And Joey, just to bounce off your point there, you're also forgetting about Reed Blankenship too. I think Reed would definitely take the step over Kavon Wallace. I think Kavon Wallace is gone, which
Yeah.
I'm surprised because I was really huge on him coming out of Clemson.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of college football, and I thought this kid was a stud. But since he's gotten here, he hasn't been able to stay healthy. He can't find his way onto the field. So, with the size defense that he likes to run, having CJ Gardner Johnson back there, you have that hybrid, like you were saying, Joe, there to play. And Gardner Johnson's not scared to come up in the box. Like
No.
he can be that guy in the box, and especially Blankenship. Blankenship can be in the box too.
Mhm.
Like that kid he's really impressed me this year.
Yeah,
Blankenship.
and I think you got to keep in mind, like when Gardner Johnson went down, and in that Packers game, when Blankenship came in, and really, I think all of us did not have like the expectations that he delivered upon in that game so soon. It made all of us open our eyes, and we knew who he was after that game.
Yeah.
And you have to understand for that, yeah, I agree in the sense that Kayvon has not made his name with any kind of respect. Blankenship has. You take the opportunities that you're given,
Dude,
and you make the best out of them.
Dude, you're speaking about that Packers game. That kid made one of the highlight plays in that game, running 25 yards down, 25 yards in field length, but he also ran like another 7 to 10 yards across the field
Mhm.
to make a tackle for like a 2-yard gain. Like how quick this kid is. And he brings pop with him. I just feel like he needs a little more seasoning. But if we're talking about guys you're going to keep, like I said, we're all in agreement. I think we should keep CJ.
Yeah,
Now,
Definitely.
I think the one guy on that list who would give the Eagles a hometown discount would be Brandon Graham.
yeah,
Because I don't think he really he's made his money. You know what I mean? So for him, I think he would take a step back. Hargraves is going to be hard to re-sign. I know a lot of Eagles fans want him, but one of the places that are like triggering to go after him is the Chicago Bears. And they
yeah,
got $90 million in cap space. So
yeah.
it's going to be hard to keep him.
And
Like,
my
Yeah, right.
my feeling with Graham is that he is getting interest from other teams, like Cleveland has called,
the
and
Giants.
yeah, one of the reasons
Yeah.
why Cleveland is called is because Schwartz is the DC over in Cleveland. So he
Yeah.
wants a guy that he knows. I mean, Cox could go to Cleveland. He wants guys that are voices in that locker room that are going to be able to lead those youngsters into the next level. And he doesn't want to be the only guy that's like banging the drum in that defensive coordinator room.
No,
Right.
I'll
And
tell you what. I'll tell you what. If Cox and Graham go to Cleveland to go along with Miles Garrett,
yeah,
I mean, Cleveland could have a pretty
That's gonna be a good
formidable
defense if
defensive.
that's the
Yeah, it
case.
could be a pretty good defense over
Yeah.
there.
no.
But let me ask you a question. T.J. Edwards,
Hmm.
do you think he re-ups here, or do you think I think he's going to Arizona. I think that's Jonathan Gannon's defensive captain right there for the
Well,
Arizona Cardinals.
I've heard two reports. I've heard Marcus Epps is going to go to the Cardinals. That's why I feel like he's on his way out. I do not feel like Marcus Epps will be here next year. I
Mhm.
also do see TJ going to the Cardinals,
Mhm.
but keep in mind with the linebacker pool that's out there right now, he's not going to get the kind of money that he would anticipate unless because the Cardinals are in salary hell. I mean, they just are. So he's not going to get the money that he wants, and he may not even get the years that he wants because of I I guess the sustainability of his success. Because let's say he's not a world beater, but he's not a bad linebacker. He's just not a world beater. There are a lot of guys that we're going to get to later that are free agents that you guys are going to be able to choose from to see which ones you guys would want to bring in. And the Cardinals are going to have that choice too with TJ. There are going to be certain tiers that they have as far as what they want, but skill level is going to be a big factor. Speaking of GMs and contracts, we already have been hearing all this fervor about what Jalen Hurts could get. When is Howie going to resign Jalen Hurts? Mike, I'll start with you. What's your takeaway? When would you want Howie to resign Hurts, and how bad or how hard up do you think this team will become roster wise once that contract is signed?
I don't think they'll be hard up, and the only reason why I'm saying this is after the Super Bowl, our quarterback Jalen Hurts literally had a meeting with Tom Brady. And the meeting, from what was kind of talked about in the rumors, that they were talking probably for about a good like couple hours or whatever. They talked, and basically he was picking Tom's brain. And if you know something about Brady, Brady always took team friendly deals to keep his team relevant. And I think that's where Jalen wants. I think that's the route he's going to go. I think, and it's not about him not getting his money, because they can give it to him in a signing bonus. I think they're going to be able to get it done. I think they're going to stretch it out, because if you listen to how we talk at the combine, he said we want to sign Jalen Hurts. He said, but Jalen's got to realize I got to put another team around him.
Right.
I got to make sure he has guys around him. If they're both on that same page, man, the sky's the limit, because Howie is probably the best manipulator of the salary cap in the NFL. So he can definitely slide that out. I'm thinking they're going to get it done, and I would be surprised, and maybe after the draft. I would love to see it get done before the draft, but here's the thing. You got Lamar Jackson's situation. Everybody's sitting around waiting. That's what they're waiting on. They're waiting for once the first shoe drops in this free agency period about where Jackson goes, because Jackson might be going to the Commanders now. That's looking very real, of him going to Washington. So
I'm still of the opinion he's going to get tagged, but that's just me.
Maybe, but like I said, I was hearing Schefter yesterday, and he said that deal's looking pretty imminent. They're getting really close to pulling the trigger on that deal. So the way I'm looking at it is this: once that shoe drops with Lamar Jackson and see what he gets, then you'll know clear cut what Jalen's going to get. I think it will be team friendly, because at the end of the day, Jalen wants to win. I think he wants to leave his mark. You got to look at it. He had a bad taste in college. He got benched for Tua. Then had to come back out and save Tua's rear end, because Tua got hurt. He had to save Saban. He goes to Oklahoma. Everybody knows this story. A lot of people forget, dude, he finished runner up to Joe Burrows in the Heisman Trophy. A
Mhm.
lot of people don't realize that.
Mhm.
But I think he wants to make it. He's got a chip on his shoulder. This dude wants to win multiple championships. And I think the only way you can do it is you got to look at how Brady did it. And that's how this is what I feel like, he was reaching out to Tom about
Right.
and going. So I don't think about if it's going to get done. I think it's going to get done. I just feel like the way Howie can manipulate the salary cap and push things back, you might get a few Super Bowl wins before we have to start paying dividends on the contract. I think it's going to be team friendly deal. I really do. I don't think he's going to be like, Daniel Jones going, oh, I want 45 million a year, and Daniel Jones hasn't done nothing but trip over the grass at Lincoln Financial Field.
James, what do you think?
Yeah. Before I go any further, today's show is proudly sponsored by David O'Cherry Esquire, Workers' Compensation, Motor Vehicle Accidents, Personal Injury, Criminal Law. Check them out today at www.cherryinjurylaw.com or give them a call at 610-565-0300 and tell them that the boys over at EOP and Pattison Avenue sent you. Yeah, I agree 100% what you said there, Mike. I think the one thing what they need to do is that when the time comes for him to be for him to go and get that deal done, I think they're going to probably wait until like you said, Lamar gets what he gets in that contract, and they'll probably say that we can upgrade that and make sure that he gets more. Make sure he has more relay to see what he has in store. So yeah, I think it's going to be done before maybe the new league year when that comes in about in a couple of weeks from now. But I think they're probably just waiting to see what the right deal is, to tell you honestly.
Yeah, for me, it's a matter of I feel like this is going to get done prior to the season,
Yeah,
maybe around mini camp and OTAs, because everybody will be in the building and Howie will
right.
be able to have a couple sit downs with Jalen just to see like where he's at, how he feels, have some cordial conversations, just to kind of get a feeling because there's no I mean, as much as people want to say, well, there's a rush, there's not, only because you have him in the building already.
Mhm.
Unlike the Ravens with Lamar,
Mhm.
Lamar hasn't been in the building in months. The Ravens don't want to lose him, hence why there have been reports about them tagging him. However, just because you get franchise tagged, as we've learned from Le'Veon Bell, the player doesn't have to play. You can tag him and he can hold out and force the hand for the team. So for the Ravens, they don't want to lose out on Lamar, but they also don't want to, you know, have this albatross over their neck either. And I agree with you, Mike, that the market's going to be set by Lamar, just like the market was set with Burrow, or the market will be set with Burrow as well. I think though you're looking at more of and I think Howie knows this. You're gonna look at more of a contract like a Pat Mahomes.
I was
Mhm.
thinking the same thing, Joe. Same thing.
Patrick
But
Mahomes has a 10-year, $500 million contract. However, it sounds like a lot of money, but a
Mhm.
lot of it is backloaded towards the 2030, 2031 season. Now, look,
Right.
he know the GM for the Chiefs is basically saying to the fans and Patrick Mahomes, you have till then to get as much out of him as possible because come that year, that season, I'm going to put the edict out there that now we have to pay the piper. Now we have to, not to say that Patrick Mahomes is going to be less of a player, but the GM's going to be able to do less with that roster. And by 2030, 2031, because, we all think that their GMs in this league last as long as Howie does here. That's not true. So by 2030, 2031, someone like that, the GM for the Chiefs could be either retired or at another job. So at that point, he's like, it won't be my problem anymore. I'm doing what's right for the franchise now. And I think how he sees that Jalen being 24 is the same concept. If he signs him to a 8 to 10 year contract, you're talking 32, 34. At that point, you're telling the team, you're telling the fans, okay, you have 6 years to get it done, to get as much out of him as you can, and then you're on your own. Like then you have to pay the piper, and that's what we have to deal with. But keep in mind is something else. And James, me and your father talked about this yesterday,
Yeah.
and that is the other thing that plays in the favor for any GM when
Mhm.
you backload a long-term contract like that is
Yep.
each year the salary cap goes up.
Yep.
So that percentage of really how much is going to be affected on as a hard cap on your cap space by the time that contract and that money comes up, it may not be as devastating as we see it from this perspective because we don't know how far up the cap will go in 6 years.
Right.
And
Gotcha.
so that percentage is going, we might say, oh, wow, $40 million a year. Yeah, we might say that's a lot of money. But in 6 years, where the cap space would be as far as how much cap a team can spend, $40 million might be the going rate.
Right. I
So,
mean, how about like think about it. You brought up Joe Burrow. If let's just say I'm gonna throw a number out there. Say they give Jalen 40 million a year,
Hmm.
okay, and they backload it.
Right.
Cool. By the time Burrow is ready to go up there, Burrow and let's see, Trevor Lawrence and
Right.
Justin Herbert, when those guys are ready to get their contracts, they're going to be looking anywhere from 55 to 60.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Like the next salary cap. Like
right.
who
So
gets a bigger.
right.
Uh,
So I think you're going to start to see this trend with NFL quarterbacks now, especially if you have a young quarterback. One, it locks them up with your team for, like you said, Joe, for at least 6 to 7 years.
right.
Mhm.
Okay, so you're going to start seeing a lot more of these 10-year contracts, just like in baseball now. We're seeing all these 10-plus-year contracts for a ridiculous amount of money.
Right.
But, like, the reason why, like I said, I equate this to the Mahomes deal is because, just listening to Jalen's a smart dude. And I feel like he's got a chip on his shoulder. He wants to prove that he can be the best in there. He wants to be the best, and to be the best, I mean, he knows it's a give and take business. So that's why I feel like he's going to do that. If they give him some money, like a ridiculous amount of money up front, and a signing bonus, which, by the way, doesn't go against the cap, it's a signing bonus.
Right.
Mhm.
Howie's a genius at doing that.
Right.
If
Yeah.
he gets most of his money up front, dude, you're going to get this kid. And I'll tell you what, the thing that showed me something was how much he improved, and it only made me look forward to next year. Like, let's keep it a bean. He outplayed Patrick Mahomes in that Super Bowl. I don't care what anybody says. He outplayed.
Oh,
I
I
don't want to
agree.
hear Patrick Mahomes was on one leg. Patrick Mahomes was scrambling around, running around, throwing darts. Jalen outplayed him. If he can outplay him on the biggest stage, this kid's right back in the lab right now getting ready. So when it comes time to pay him, like I said, I think he's smart enough to realize, hey, I got to take a team friendlier deal because I want to get these other guys around me so we can continue making sustained runs. That's the way we're going to get to a championship. So
And the thing that I think a lot of people possibly have seen out of Jalen too, because he wants to be involved in how this team gets
formed,
becomes
yeah.
built and becomes fortified and everything. He's in Indianapolis. He was in Indy for the last two off seasons and drafts. There's a reason for that. He wants to be involved with how this team is molded around him too, and that's a big reason why I think that you saw Howie go, okay, I will listen to I will go to you and you tell me what you need. And I will see what I can do to work that out. Having Devontae Smith sit right there at his lap, Howie's like, yeah, okay, they played together and they were successful. Okay, that makes sense.
Right.
Okay, AJ Brown, at that time, AJ was in this contract dispute with Tennessee, and Howie said, I'm not sure if I could get him, but I'm going to put an offer out there and see how desperate Tennessee is to take it. They took it. Howie's like, okay, no problem. So you two are best friends. Devontae's I mean, this offense, especially if Howie can do something long term
Right.
for Jalen, because keep in mind, like, Devontae is going to want money when
Yep.
his contract comes up. However, similar to like everybody else, he's not going to want to break the bank because he knows he's playing second fiddle to AJ Brown. Not to say that's a bad thing, because both are going to get 1,000+ yards. He's going to get his. Like that. That's the way I see it. I see these guys as a Randy Moss, Chris Carter kind of duo for the foreseeable future, with AJ and Devontae, and having someone like Jalen as a stalwart at that quarterback position. It's going to be important and valuable for this offensive threat. Now, moving forward, we have to look to the future. And the NFL Combine was this past week, and it's still currently going on. Guys, I'll start with you, James. What are some guys? I have some names, but what are some guys that you have seen that have stood out to you? And what do you think the Eagles will do with that number 10 pick?
It is interesting. I'm not entirely sure because I mean the one thing I looked at it too was when they obviously there was a couple Bulldogs there that were like lining it up and everything. But there's one guy that really might be a real good steal. But Barrett Brooks brought it up last night on Bert's Huddle. He said this like it was like a Pittsburgh player that is like another Aaron Donald. Like he's like exactly literally identical of what Aaron Donald was. Maybe that put. I mean, like if let's say for example, if there's like a Georgia Bulldog, like a Ringo that drops down and you can get him, that'll be great. I'm not taking anything away from that. But if you can get like the next Aaron Donald, man, I'm gonna be like, you know what? I can see that happening. I don't know what his name is. I think
Pair
if I can
him
look it
with
up.
Jordan Davis, and I think
Yeah, I mean,
regardless, that is going to be a ferocious tandem.
yeah, man. It's just like when I saw like he was like the next Aaron Donald, I'm thinking, you know what? I'm good with that. You know, I mean, I'm not a big fan of Pitt. I mean, I can. I mean, I never watched Pitt games, but I think this might be one guy that could be one guy that could fall down to the Eagles at number 10.
So you see them picking possible defensive linemen. Okay.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, this is going to be a defensive draft, no question about it.
Mike, you keep up with a lot of college football. What did you see at the NFL Combine? What stood out, and where do you think the Eagles are leaning at number 10?
What stood out to me was the 3 defensive linemen that ran a 4.40. That's what stood out to me.
Yeah,
that's unbelievable. It just goes to show you, Joe, these kids are they're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster than ever. But as far as the Eagles go, I'm going to put it to you like this. If there's a quarterback still on the board at number 10, if there's a quarterback still on the board at number 10, I could see the Eagles trading out of that pick, dropping back a few spots, gaining some assets for rounds 2 through 4 where they don't have picks this year. Okay. Picking up Joey Porter Jr. around 13 or 14 from Penn State. I think Witherspoon's probably the best defensive back or best cornerback in this draft. I got a feeling he's going to go before the Eagles can even try to draft. And I love the kid out of Illinois. I watch a lot of Big Ten football. That kid was stellar. But I think what they need to go opposite of Slay, it's got to be Joey Porter Jr. The kid is big. He's physical. He reminds you of Bobby Taylor. Just think of Bobby Taylor with an attitude.
Ooh.
That's Joey Porter Jr.
I was a big Bobby Taylor fan, so
was I.
I like that comparison.
He is.
It's a real good comparison.
He's tall. But he's got an attitude. He's got his daddy's attitude. He's got a linebacker attitude playing cornerback. He's not scared to come up and hit.
What did you say his name was? Porter?
Yeah, Joey Porter Jr. Joey Porter Jr. The old Pittsburgh.
Joey Porter, the former linebacker from the Steelers.
Yes, this is his son. Plays at Penn
Wow.
State. Yep,
Okay.
he's a cornerback. He's like 6'3", like about 220 or 215, 220. Big kid.
Yeah,
Very
Joey Porter was no one to mess with.
no, and his kid's got the same attitude, but he plays cornerback. He gets up. I mean, when they played Ohio State last year, when Penn State played Ohio State, they had to move Marvin Harrison over to the other side because
Right.
Joey Porter, the way Penn State, the way Manny Diaz's defense was, Porter was on one side of the field, the other kid was on the other side of the field.
Yep.
So that's how it was. So they had to move Marvin Harrison because he was jamming Harrison the whole game. He was throwing him off, and Harrison's probably the best wide receiver in college football. So this is what I would do if I'm Howie Roseman. If there's a quarterback on the board, I'm on the phone saying, hey, you guys need a quarterback. You want to move up? This is what's going to cost you. They could probably get a 1, a 3, and a 4 to move up, even 3 spots. You drop back, you take Joey Porter. Now, what you do with that 30th pick at the end of the draft, you either go after the kid, the edge rusher from Clemson. I would either take him, but if he's not available, you trade back into the second round, accumulate more draft capital. And you know how he's good at doing that? It's not going to hurt the Eagles to do that because now you have picks really going from 2 all the way down to 7 now. So you can still get quality players, and there's some decent players they can take in the second round. There's like you said, the kid from Pitt. They're talking about he may go late first round. Probably they got him projected between late first round and middle second round. So if you can get a top early pick, because you always know there's always that one team who picked that number like in the first 8 spots that wants to get back into the first round. You just take their draft picks.
So this is how a lot of this, and this is why I mentioned the free agents in advance to this, because I always feel like the draft is a predicate to how teams are leaning as far as free agency. If Lamar Jackson does not stay in Baltimore and does wind up going to another team, if Daniel Jones is a bonehead and thinks he's worth $45 million, he'll go to another team because New York's not paying him that. If they didn't pay Eli, who won them Super Bowls, that amount of money, you're not paying Daniel Jones that, who hasn't won anything in New York. You have the Geno Smith is another one. Derek Carr is another one. So there's a lot of quality quarterbacks that are out there on the free agent market. And the one thing you have to keep in mind is that I think I saw with Kuiper, he said that the top 3 quarterbacks will go. Now Kuiper's not always right. But
I don't think he ever is right.
yeah, I that's why I always mock him.
So Joe, real quick before you go, who does he have listed as his 3 top quarterbacks? What's it? Stroud,
Young, and the guy from
Levis?
Will Levis?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
because I saw Will Levis going around 11 or 12.
Yeah,
and a few mocks. So
and so here's my thing is, as these free agent quarterbacks go off the board, so to speak, so will the need for some of these quarterbacks in the draft. And so if you see some of these teams in the top 10 or top 9, I should say, steal one of these free agent quarterbacks, then they're not going to need one in the draft. So we want some of the quarterbacks to go off the board because we want people behind us to become desperate. And desperation gives the Eagles the best chance to take that 10 pick. And I don't even see, I understand people are like, well, you can package it and get a second and a third. I still think that the Eagles could trade that back, still stay in the first for still having 2 first-round picks. You're just maybe looking at like 20 or 23 in that range along with the 30. And then maybe a 3rd or a 4th round pick. I think Howie would take that depending on the package and the team, the dancing partner he would get, especially with the quarterbacks. But some guys that stood out to me, I'm a big defensive guy, And I know with all the free agents that the Eagles are going to be losing, they need to replenish it in the draft. James, I'm not normally a Bulldogs fan. I'm not even normally an SEC fan,
Yep.
but I know where talent is, and I know what talent looks like. Because when I saw Jordan Davis last year at the combine, I called you and I think I must have blew out your speaker on your phone. Because I was like, guys that big shouldn't run that fast. That's just not right. And so I'm like, okay. And then
Yeah, man.
we go to this combine, and you have someone like Nolan Smith and
Yeah.
Robert Beal
How about it?
Jr. that are doing sub 4.5s in the 40-yard dash as defensive linemen. I'm like, I mean, linebackers. I'm like, okay. I'm okay with making this a Georgia Bulldog thing. As far as the
Yeah, why
corners,
not?
because I do agree that we need secondary, especially if Bradbury walks, and I'm not a fan of Slay anymore.
No.
And I think Slay might be traded at the draft, during the draft.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I think the one thing that like probably when it comes to the draft, I think they trade. Like I said, they'll keep Bradbury for and free like keep Bradbury and no trade Slay and probably in like on draft night. Before we go any further, today's show is also sponsored by Sherry'sTickets.com. Family owned and operated since 1946, so you can save 10% by using the EOP. You're using the promo code EOP10. The price you see is the price you pay. Great prices and no hidden fees for sports, concerts, and theater. Visit their website at www.sherry'stickets.com and tell them that the boys over at EOP and Pattison have sent you.
So I the two corners that because I agree with Mike that we may have to lean a little bit more on the secondary.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I'll check this. Is how are you not an SEC fan? Oh, Notre Dame. That's right. Never mind.
Oh man, I'm stuck
Al,
with another.
why are you rubbing salt into the wounds just because my Irish got trounced by every SEC team known to man? You don't need to pour salt into the wound.
Jesus, man, I feel like I'm on my college football show. I'm the only Penn State guy. I'm surrounded by Golden Domers.
Oh
yeah,
jeez. Anyhow, I see both Bennett and Banks as the two best corners in this draft.
Yeah,
and I think that if the Eagles were to draft either one, it would be a nice ray of sunshine in that secondary. I look at like what Sauce Gardner brought to the Jets. I look at like other guys like the guy I wanted the Eagles to pick up in the 6th round last year, Trayvon Woodley. Why?
Tariq Woolen, you mean?
Woolen, yeah. Tariq Woolen. What? Why? What? 6th round pick out of like University of. I'm not even going to start it. But I was at the day 3 draft show, and I literally kept saying, "Can we just draft him? Can we just draft him?" And I wasn't wrong. And so for me, it's a matter of that number 10 pick. If we stay there, and it's ironic that we're saying this again 2 years in a row. Will we stay? Will we trade down? Will we trade back? All of this. There's going to be a lot of movement. We know that from Howie on draft night. I think we trade back. But I think once we trade back, I think you're going to see 7 picks out of the Eagles this draft, and I think about 5 of them are going to be defensive minded. And I think
that sounds about right.
I agree with you there, Joey. Let me ask you guys a quick question while we're talking about the draft. Do you see? I honestly, I can see Howie moving both of those picks back. I don't know why, because especially if you're trying to get, say, if you're at late teens, early 20s, and you're trying to move up to 10. I mean, if you remember the haul that the Giants sent over to the Bears sent over to the Giants for them to get that pick when we took Devontae Smith. Yeah. They got a haul just for moving up 8 spots. So, I mean, it really all depends, like you said, Joe, who his dancing partner is. But at the end of the day, all the GMs know Howie's going to get him.
Right.
So
Yeah, and that's the thing is like Howie's not hiding behind a curtain anymore. He's not the great and powerful Oz that people don't know like what he's capable of doing. That I see Howie wants to make sure that he still brings talent here because he's losing a lot of talent with the free agency, but I could also see the idea if the draft board doesn't fall in his favor. Because look at like N'Kobe Dean. Let's be clear. The prior to that draft night, N'Kobe Dean was a projected first round pick.
Mm-hmm.
And we got him in the third round. And
Yep.
yes, I know that he hasn't like shine out the box, but listen, this guy every time he's on
gonna
the
be a
field, he's
beast,
doing
man.
something.
listen, I think that was more of a product of the defense.
Yes.
I think he'll flourish in Desai's defense. Listen, all you got to do is look at Desai's time with Baltimore. Those linebackers move around. They're able to get, they're able to move around. They're able to make plays. They have big defensive tackles, which the Eagles do too. They have a couple big guys right now. I mean, Milton Williams is not a small kid.
No.
We need to see a little more from him. I think he didn't get a chance to showcase. Like, he was good his rookie year. Like, he had flashes this year. And I now it's time for these boys. They got to step up. Jordan Davis got to step up. Got to play more than 20 plays a game.
Yep.
So go ahead, Mike.
Oh, go ahead, Joe. Go ahead.
So I wanted to move on because one of the things that I want to get from you guys, and this might kind of tap into what you're going into, Mike, is within the free agent market, some of the replacements, if Howie doesn't get those replacements or the proper replacements on draft night, and the free agents will determine how aggressive Howie is, there are some key free agents out there that I feel like are still worth talking about. Mostly on defense. There are some because of the fact that Miles Sanders might not come back. You got to ask yourself the question: what are you willing to replace him with? So you have a couple people: Marcus Davenport. You have Jordan Poyer, safety. Tony Pollard. Jesse Bates is a safety that Howie's had his eye on for a while. He's out of Cincinnati, so that he's young.
I heard about Jesse Bates. Like I think last year he held out, and I was thinking like they probably would have bring him in, like something like that.
Rockwell Smith, who's a linebacker from the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
So, out of some of these guys, and you have a couple of people like Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, okay, if you're Howie, just like we did with the free agents that we were going to possibly re-sign, I'm gonna put you guys back in the Howie chair. Well, you guys have been in the Howie chair this whole segment, but I'm gonna keep you there and say, okay, you get to pick one of them out of the guys I mentioned. James, who are you picking?
I gotta go with Josh Jacobs. I think Josh Jacobs will be a real good fit here because I know we need the running back, and I know, like you said earlier, Mike, with Miles Sanders, I think he's not going to be coming back, and you need to get another running back. I mean, look, I don't know if I'm sold on Kenny Gainwell yet. I mean, he showed some flashes. I mean, he is a real good player, but I think if Josh Jacobs is there, I think he'll be a real good fit here.
Mike?
I'm actually going to go I'm going to go a little off your list, Joe. I got two free agents. Okay. One offense, one defense.
Okay.
My offensive guy, it's a running back. I say Kareem Hunt. You sign Kareem Hunt. You can get him relatively cheap. He's not going to cost a ton of money. His body's been well protected because he's been splitting carries with Nick Chubb. Actually, he played second fiddle to Nick Chubb. So you're getting a pretty good running back, and he's still young enough, and the dude can run the ball. Two, believe it or not, I think this guy, you can get him. He would help your pass rush out immensely. You put him opposite Hassan Reddick, and that's one Khalil Mack, who was cut by the Chargers.
Interesting.
Khalil Mack, you could get him in here, and it's not going to cost you a whole lot. And the guy can still rush the passer. That's two guys that can help this team right now.
The thing I like in some retrospect is that they have good name value. However, with Khalil Mack, I wonder how much tread's still left on the tire. Um, with Kareem Hunt, I feel like we've been dancing that dance around for quite some time, and it's either going to happen or not. I'm kind of in lockstep with James a little bit. If CJ walks, I think you have to keep Jesse Bates on speed dial because
Definitely.
Jesse Bates is only 1 year older. He's played at a high level, and you need to have that safety that is going to protect that back end, especially if some of your platooning with your linebackers, your corners, if that's all going to be different and possibly younger, you need someone with viable skill set to be back there. And that's one of the reasons why when we started this segment, you know, knowing and understanding how important CJ is, but there's nothing guaranteed that you're going to resign him. If you don't, you need to have anyone with talent. So Poyer's like, I guess, the poor man's Jesse Bates.
Nah, I'll disagree with you on that one. I think Justin
Hmm.
Poyer's better than Jesse Bates.
Okay.
I watched Jesse Bates get burned all year long by tight ends. I'm not sold on Jesse Bates. I think he wants too much money. If you are going to lose CJ to free agency, Justin Poyer would be like he would just be able to replace him. Like
Okay.
he could replace Gardner Johnson. He's
Wait,
very physical. He's very physical, and I would take him over Jesse Bates. Jesse Bates to me, I felt like I felt like he was more hype, and I watched him play this year. Like he got abused this year. To me, we don't need a guy back there getting abused, especially by tight ends. Tight ends ate his ass alive.
Oh, tight ends eat us alive. I mean, I'm still having nightmares of that one guy from the Rams that basically had 3 touchdowns and didn't have any touchdowns prior to that game, and he had 3 touchdowns on us, and I'm like, okay,
Oh God.
I'm like, okay, I'm done.
Was that Carson Wentz's last year? I forget how to.
Yeah, but this was more on the defense. This was Malcolm Jenkins getting completely bamboozled.
Hey,
So,
quick question: where do you think Carson ends up?
on the
Besides
bench,
besides the CFL?
well, on the
That's
bench
just
somewhere. I mean, here's the thing: is he's a good, serviceable backup. I think he'll get a job in the NFL, but it won't be as a starter. And if he thinks it is, he's sadly mistaken. Him, like Ben Simmons, are going to be sitting bench. That's what their role is, and they have to get used to that.
Just keep an
I
eye
think
out
he's
for
going to
him.
retire. Honestly,
I don't. I think he's going to go to Carolina. Keep an eye out. Frank Reich, Deuce Staley.
Didn't we
Yeah.
already do that dance already though?
Yeah, but
I was just going to say that. It's funny. I said like
his hands were tied though. Come on, that dude in Indianapolis is a nut.
No
Did you wanna
argument
work
here.
Dude, that dude is
question
a
about
fruit
it.
cake. Like, dude, you couldn't pay me. You could look and say, yo, you could be the coach for the next 10 years and I won't fire you. And I still wouldn't take that job working for that dude. That whole family's a bunch of cuckoos.
And that's why I feel
Absolutely.
for Shane Steichen, because
Yeah, he's going to be gone after like 3 years. You watch.
because I think Shane is a very good offensive minded coach, and I think he's in a really bad situation.
yeah,
And
and
Real bad.
especially with Ursay. Jesus.
yeah,
Dude, Ursay
um,
wants to fire the general manager every other year.
Yeah.
That dude, I've never seen a GM who drafts pretty well. Yeah, this past year they had a down year, but normally they're around the playoff picture talking, and this dude's forever got his ass on the hot seat. Like this dude's like flaming. You see this dude, he's literally got a flame under this GM's butt out there, Chris Ballard. It's like, did you talk about an unsafe work environment? Work for an Ursay, dude.
Jesus.
so we're going to transition into your Philadelphia 76ers, and it's been a rough go as of late, but the Sixers have to pick up their jaws, they have to pick up their tempo, and they have to get ready for tonight, because tonight is a big game. Once again, the Philadelphia 76ers go against the first place team, this time in the Milwaukee Bucks. This has been a hard, hard last couple days. Yes, they got a win in Miami, but honestly, I think it was just, I guess I hate to use it but it's probably true. In Miami's perspective, it was a scheduled loss.
Oh,
I
Oh,
never,
man.
schedule loss makes an appearance.
yeah, I never liked that term. I like that term as much as I like the zombie runner term.
Oh, oh,
So
Al loves that term. Watched him up.
I hate it. It sounds like something out of like a kid's Halloween party. Um, so one of the things I wanted to ask you guys is the last I want to exempt the Wednesday game, and I want to talk about the Monday and the Thursday game. The Sixers got players, especially Joel Embiid and Mike. I know you got some really strong opinions about this, so I'm looking forward to this. But um, on Monday and Thursday, it seemed like the Sixers got outplayed by a more superior athlete, a more superior star power. On Monday with Jimmy Butler, on Thursday with Luka Doncic. Mike, I know you've had a lot to say about Joel. I will let you have the floor.
All right. Matter of fact, I've been waiting to do this, especially on this show, because I know some of your cohorts. I think you guys kind of took out of context what I was saying, and I want to be clear. I'm rooting for Joel Embiid. The reason why I said trade Joel Embiid is I was making a counterpoint to my co-host on Sundays, Pat. And the reason why is, and I love you guys. You guys are all diehard Sixer fans, but to me, you can't have it both ways. Okay. And what I mean by that is you can't pump him up and say he's a bona fide MVP, which he is, but then tell me, well, if I think about moving him now while he's in his prime, we're not going to get back the haul that we should get. I think you would get back a great haul for Joel Embiid. The reason why I say that is this team is not good enough to get to an NBA Finals. I love Frank Finnegan to death. He's a great dude. Frank, your streak of picking teams to go to the finals ends with the Sixers because they're not getting there. Their ceiling is maybe the Eastern Conference Finals. And the reason why I say that is their bench isn't as good as Boston's or Milwaukee. Okay. I feel like they play Milwaukee a little tougher than they do Boston. Boston has their number. They're not going to beat Boston. So unless somebody else steps in and beats Boston, they're not going to do it. They've also struggled with the Knicks this year. The Knicks have gotten better.
It's been more than this year, but yeah, you're right.
So
you're
this
right.
is why I'm saying the iron is hot now with Joel Embiid. The Sixers have lost all this draft capital because we have a GM who's stupid. All right, I'm sorry. I'm not a big Daryl Morey fan. I'm not giving you Ben Simmons and picks for James Harden. I'm going to do a straight up deal. And if that's not the case, oh, well, Ben, you're stuck here. Go sit down. You know what I mean? Like the Sixers, the Sixers paid the Nets basically to take our problem away. And they gave us back their issue, which was James Harden, which, by the way, he'll be in Houston next year.
We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that.
Right. So you did all this for nothing. You're right back where you started. Now you go from the big three, okay, to basically the 2.5. And I'm sorry, Joel's playoff performances are a little less lackluster in my eyes. The guy who comes to play in the playoffs for the 76ers is that guy who's on the trading block every year, which is Tobias Harris. That dude's money in the playoffs. Joel's not. And this is why. He gets hurt every year. You got to move him. He's young enough. He's a caliber athlete now. You got to move him. You will get a haul back. Look what Brooklyn got from Phoenix to send KD out there. They got a haul.
You would consider that a haul?
Yeah, because
are any of them stars? Are any of them going to be possible MVP?
I'm not talking about the players in return. I'm talking about the draft capital that they got, Joe. That can be. Like, I understand. You're going to – Joel, if he goes somewhere else and he's paired with a Jimmy Butler in Miami, they could probably win a title. But he's not going to win one here. You got to look at it. You got to look at it from the top down. He's not going to win one here. How long are they going to hold on to Doc before they realize this dude's not the coach for them to do it? How long is this GM going to be here? Like, and I don't feel confident with him even making that trade. To be honest with you, I don't like. To me, I feel like the Sixers are in limbo right now. It's second round, and that's it. I
James,
told you. I'm saying for me, I'm gonna end it. Their ceiling this year, Eastern Conference Finals, and that's if they get lucky and beat Milwaukee in a best of 7 or whoever the number 2 team is when they go to play them.
James, I'll let you respond to both Mike and the question that I posed. So,
Sure.
what has been your takeaway, especially from Embiid and the team's play both Monday and Thursday? I know Wednesday was kind of a aberration of what they really can be. Like I said, I think it was a scheduled loss for the Heat. But what's your takeaway from the Monday and Thursday game?
Well, I mean, I didn't see much of the Monday game. I guess it was just a bad game overall. I think they just didn't play well, like on both sides of the court. I think everything, and that happened again on Thursday. They were really close, hanging on by a thread with Dallas, and I thought, okay, maybe they have a chance to win this game. And unfortunately, that third quarter was just flat out abysmal by the club. I mean, you can't let Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic, like you said before the show, have a combined of 82 points altogether in that game. And that's not how it's going to get done in this league. I mean, I'm starting to realize now. I mean, look, I want to believe in this team any way I possibly can, but sometimes it's just like like they always go through these hurdles of like towards the end of the season, and they don't even know how to play basketball. And you need to start winning games because like this can go from worst to first. I mean, it's from first to worst in a matter of probably a time span of about maybe like the next couple games, because Milwaukee comes in tonight, and who knows what they're going to be like tonight with Milwaukee. And like I don't know who their next opponent is, but it's really disintegrative how they've been playing the last couple games.
So you have Milwaukee tonight. You have Indianapolis, the Pacers, coming in early next week, and then
Indiana's pretty good too.
yeah, and then you have Minnesota Timberwolves.
Right.
They're fighting to still stay in the
Yep.
Western Conference playoffs.
Yep.
So they're a hungry team, and they've been a
Mhm.
hungry team since last year. They have a better
Absolutely.
taste in their mouth because of what happened. And look, they just ran across a team that I mean, that was a dogfight of a series. To kind of respond to you, Mike, and I look, I understand your opinion about
Cool.
Joel
Cool.
Embiid, and that he may not win here. But where I disagree in this sense is, if we're looking at a haul, if you want to define a haul for any player as the picks, the capital from the picks, and the players you get, then Oklahoma City is the richest team in the NBA because they have like 18 first round picks in the next 5 years. That doesn't make them the next NBA champions in 5-6 years. We've gone through and seen teams that have had those stud. Look at Cade Cunningham. The guy can't stay on the floor. Detroit can't find a winner. You have people in Toronto that are questioning some of their draft decisions. Draft picks are just that. They're prospects. They're not certifiable studs. They're not Kevin Durant's. Kevin Durant's and Joel Embiid's, Luka Doncic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, those guys were picks, but they came out and established who they were and who they are. Joel Embiid is the best center in the league. This is not a center happy league. I understand that, but having that kind of unicorn in your locker room, having something like that can only strengthen, not weaken. And we're going to get into the whole Harden to Houston thing. But one of the things I want to add to this is You never like Sean Marks, who gives my last name a bad name, that is the Brooklyn Nets general manager.
GM.
We have disowned him from the Marks clan. He is no longer able to use that last name on his business cards. He's not invited to the reunion. Um,
No
that just
cookouts, no. No
no,
cookouts.
no, mm-mm.
They put him in the corner.
No, he's no, he's not allowed. Um, because any
Uh,
right-minded general manager that trades an MVP or an MVP candidate should be checked for mental disturbance. They just should, because it doesn't happen, nor should it happen unless you're imploding a team. Look at like LeBron James. Look at Stephen Curry. Look at some of the guys that have won MVP. Giannis Antetokounmpo. You think any one of those teams have thought or batted an eye that they're going to trade that guy? Now, look, LeBron James and the Lakers are not winning the championship. That's just not going to happen. Giannis proved that he could. Stephen proved that he could. But you have to put the players around them. And as much as it seems like a cop out, I don't feel like the Sixers have put the right talent around Joel Embiid in order for Joel Embiid to take his self to the next level. Because remember, Stephen Curry and Giannis Antetokounmpo don't win a championship without their team, without Klay Thompson, without Draymond Green, without Chris Middleton, without all those guys, without a Brooke Lopez. Or yeah, so I mean, keep in mind these guys need to have the right talent there. Now, this is where I will agree with you, Mike, is that I don't like Daryl Morey because I think he makes vital mistakes as far as putting these players, this team together. PJ Tucker, I get it, but I don't like it. Uh, Danielle House Jr., okay, he's just another Shake Milton. I'm sorry, he just is. Like that doesn't make any sense to me. He doesn't add any value to your team. Um, the fact that they slept on Kevin Love and picked up Dwayne Dedman, who's been on the injury reserve list since he's gotten here. He's so I'm really puzzled by some of the moves that he's made. The James Harden to Houston, and I'll go to you, Mike, after I make my peace with this. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's posturing. I think it's posturing because why would he go back? The GM is still there that he didn't like. The owners are still there that he didn't like. The team is not any more efficient. There's no like superstar there. So he would go there for the money. Okay. Well, Toby's contract is coming off the books after this season. So you're trying to tell me that Daryl Morey, his best one of his best friends, isn't going to write a contract once he opts out and write a contract for a higher deal to keep him here? Yeah, I absolutely think that will happen. That's why I think it's posturing. I think it's posturing from Harden to Morey to say, well, you know what? They're going to pay me whatever I want in Houston. I may not win, but at least I'll get a check, and it'll be with a lot of zeros. Mike, what do you think about this Harden to Houston thing?
I think it's very real. I'm a little opposite of you, Joe, only because his family's still there. They still live down there. The fan base wants him to come back there, and ultimately, not to be funny, but he'll sell tickets, and that's going to make the owner money. It doesn't worry. Like this is a business at the end of the day, and I don't. I mean, would it surprise me if Daryl Morey backed up the Brinks truck to give to James Harden to stay here? No, because he's an idiot. So I just don't see really the value in giving that dude a max money deal, 5-year deal, because he's in his mid-30s. You know what I mean? He's not going to see the length of that contract. He'll retire before that contracts, yeah, or he'll be like one of those guys coming off the bench, making a ton of money. It
He
just
could,
doesn't make.
he could
It's
be
just
like a Dirk. He could be
Yeah.
like a Dirk, and he just takes the money and just says, okay, if a winning team just happens to arrive around me, I'll take
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I'll take it. But I mean, that's the only thing I see with him. If I'm Daryl Morey, after what I've seen, have him here, what 2+ years? Nah, I'm good. You can go to Houston, bro. Have fun. Go down there. Go back to the strip bars. Have fun. I'll buy you a lap dance. You know what I mean?
James,
Because
what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think um it's hard to describe because it's like I don't know if it's legit or not, but if he is not if it is seems legit, I'm like you really want to go back to a team that, like you said, Joe, like that wants to that want like that you couldn't stand the GM over there, you couldn't stand the coach over there, but you love him anyway. It's like I love you, but I hate you at the same time. It's like what do you want to? It
I
kind of
think he
just
misses the fat James Harden. I think he misses the fat James Harden a lot. And I
yeah,
think
exactly.
yeah
He wants to go back
yeah
there. He wants to go back to Houston, do a couple Whataburgers and
right
shakes, and you know have his go to his
well
strip clubs. I mean, dude, listen, this is his last contract.
yeah
So he's going to go wherever the money is. Like it's not about team now. Like yeah, he
yeah
may want a ring, like you said, Joe. If it just so happens that a team that's really good could use his services, then they'll probably try to hit him up. But other than that, man, like I know he's just going to go somewhere, and maybe in like the final years of this next contract he's getting, he may say, "Hey, look, if you can send me to a contender just so I can win a ring, could you do that for me?" And I'm pretty sure they'll try to accommodate him. But I can't see, like, to me, it makes no sense for the Sixers to resign this guy. It really doesn't. They could use that money and go elsewhere and maybe get, like you said, better people to surround Joel with to help them move forward. Because I love Maxey. I think Maxey is definitely the future of this team. I love him to death. And you need to put players around him and Joel. If you can go out and get another guy, a couple guys that can go around them. And I totally agree with you too with the whole PJ Tucker thing. I never understood that. I thought that was a Morey mistake too.
I think it's a waste of time in my opinion too.
Like you need people to score. Like I'm sorry. Like I get the whole defensive thing, but damn, dude, in the regular season, you only need the defensive time. This defense is in the playoffs. So if I'm, I would have had him sit like PJ. You're going to sit out halfway after the All-Star break. We'll start easing you in. You got an injury.
I'll counter with the whole defense if that's Maury's argument, not your argument, Mike, but Maury's argument.
That's Maury's argument. Yeah,
right. But look at what happened against Dallas. 132 points is not defense, not by any means or measure.
Dallas was, listen, they were on that defense. The perimeter defense in that game was atrocious.
Well, it's been atrocious.
You could find a public high school here in Philly, or a Catholic school, or even a little CYO 8 to 10-year-old teams that play better defense than what the Sixers played the other night in Dallas.
It's true.
It's the truth. I mean, listen, if you guys were watching that game, I turned it off. I got frustrated. I'm like, they're just catching and shooting. It was schoolyard ball.
Everything was going in, like my dad always said. Everything just went in.
Well, I mean, and this is the thing that irks me is, okay, at least with Dallas, it was like guys that I feel like have talent that they're shooting. But then when you face like a team like Miami and you have someone like, the one guy that Vincent that always lights us up, I'm like, this guy is like a nobody. Why is this guy shooting lights out on us? And the perimeter defense has been really terrible. So if he brought PJ and Daniel House Jr. over here for defense, it means he failed. Like it's not even a close. It's not even a close argument. He failed.
I agree, Joey. I agree with you.
I agree.
Listen, I never thought me and Joe would agree so much in 1 hour. Like we really, I guess great minds think alike. Because
yes, well, I've been saying your partner that for years, but he keeps going on and on.
Listen,
about.
I actually thought I was going to get through a whole show without having to mention my partner. Thank God. Well, I got to do that tomorrow.
So we're going to transition a little bit into the Phillies, but before we do, Philly season's going to be kicking off, and Eagles season's going to be schedule's going to be released in a couple in a couple weeks. James,
Yes.
if people want to go and see the Phillies in an away game or want to see the Eagles in an
Hmm.
away game, how could they get a package?
They can go to phillysportstrips.com. I know there's advertisements a little bit. I probably need a newer advertisement as the night rolls on, but it's all good. Basically, you can go to like basically any Phillies road game this year. Like literally, get started right now. You can go to spring training games, Pirates game that's coming up soon, Yankees game, like you mentioned that, like a couple weeks ago with the and a lot of like Philly sports strips coming along, like for Sixers playoffs if they're going to make the playoffs. And if you're interested into the Flyers or like Eagles road games, just check out www.phillysportstrips.com and book a trip today.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Listen, I will be the first to tell you, I did the Washington trip along with Big Al.
Nice.
Dude, the tailgate alone is worth the price
Yes.
of admission. So if you guys don't, make sure you check out phillysportstrip.com. They also have union trips as well. They're actually doing a Colorado weekend. Believe it or not, Phillies, Rockies, also the Union are out there playing as well.
Yep.
So guys, make sure you definitely give them a check out, and I definitely give them a thumbs up when that Eagle schedule comes out. Cool, those trips are going to fill up fast, man.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
it's another joy. Like Glenn Magno calls it a joy bomb. But every time when I see that Philly sports strip thing at the dugouts with the spring training, I'm thinking that's our advertising, man. That's the advertisement, man. It's pretty
Yep.
cool. It's
I-
pretty cool, man.
And it's interesting because with Philly sports trips, so Vince is a great guy, and
Yeah.
and you will get first class experience on their trips. And
Yes, sir.
there's one that's coming up, and I can tell from my own experience. There's one coming up for the Phillies going to Wrigley Field.
Mm-hmm.
If you have never been to Wrigley Field and you are a baseball enthusiast, baseball lover, go see one of the best places to watch baseball.
Nice.
Wrigley Field is amazing. Not
Sweet.
one bad seat in the house.
That's on my bucket list. I haven't
Definitely.
been there.
Definitely.
So
Been to Fenway, but never Wrigley. That's my other
uh,
bucket list.
I've been the opposite. I've been to Wrigley. I haven't been to Fenway. There was a trip that I was planning before I lost my vision that there's a hotel that's right off of the Green Monster, and
Yep.
you can book the hotel, and you can really watch the game from your hotel room.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah, they're not
Wow.
lying. They're not lying. And it's I'll tell you what,
Holy shit.
the only thing I will tell you about that, Joe, us being bigger guys,
Yeah.
you got to be careful because the seats are tiny. Like
Oh, yeah.
they haven't swat, and all the seats in Fenway all face home plate. It doesn't matter where you are in the stadium, they all face home plate.
And I will tell you this, Mike, as
pretty
a
cool.
person who's been to Wrigley, they have wider seats, so it's nice and cozy.
Well, I listen. Now that you told me that they're doing a trip out there, I may have to
Yeah.
partake and take a look.
So the Philadelphia Phillies are kicking off their spring training, and there's been a lot of headlines. One such headline has been this, I don't know, pitcher by the name of Mr. Painter. He has been on the radar for MLB for the last 3 months.
Hmm.
He is in the top 50 top prospects for MLB.
Wow.
He has been projected to be the youngest Philadelphia Philly of all time. I didn't stutter. They don't bring these guys up this young. If he makes the roster, he will have dressed as the youngest player in Philadelphia Phillies history. This guy is, really giving a lot of hope to what this rotation will look like going forward. We talk about Maxey and the future being with him, and we talk about Hertz and the future being with him. Painter looks like this is going to be his team going forward. And I also want to throw another guy's name out there who's also fighting for that fifth pitcher slot in the rotation, and that's Bailey Falter. Bailey Falter's not going away. He's not going quiet into that night. And I'm really going to enjoy this little battle between them for that fifth slot. So, my question to lead off things for you guys is which guy do you think wins that fifth slot in the pitching rotation? Mike, I'll start with you.
Um, believe it or not, Joe, I think they both win because Rob Thompson pretty much said he's going with a 6-man rotation to start off early in the season. So I think Painter will come up with the Phillies. I think he will be the youngest Philly. But I like the fact that, Bailey's not going away without a fight. And he looked really good the other day against the Red Sox.
Yeah, he did.
Painter, on the other hand, he looked a little shaky, maybe a little nerves, I guess. But I think the kid's going to be all right. I think he's ranked number 4 overall in Major League Baseball as a prospects. So I saw him pitch last year at Reading, and I'll tell you what, the kid's got dominating stuff, man. He's got dominating stuff, and I truly believe he'll be around for a while. He'll eventually work into that aces role. But I think once they do kind of get off of the 6-man rotation early off in the season, you're going to see Bailey Falter probably drop back into the bullpen. And I think Painter's going to get that job. And as he should, I think.
With Painter, the interesting thing that Mike brought up is some of Painter's stuff. Painter hit 98 on the gun during his play in the Grapefruit League game, and there was a guy that they were playing against, and I want to say it was not Carrasco, it was someone else that mentioned to Derek Hall at first base. He said that kid is going, when he grows into his body, he's going to hit 101 easy. And that is amazing. I have gotten comparisons to Randy Johnson
Wow.
in my head as far as Painter's concerned. And because Randy was able to dominate with power, and he had other pitches that could throw the batter off, and you kind of use that fastball as a weapon almost. James, what do you think of Painter, and what do you think of Falter, and who do you think's going to get that fifth slot?
It's a tough question because I think I think I'm with Mike on this one. I think it might be like both might make the cut because I think the one thing I take out of it is that if Painter makes a lot of excitement in spring training, he'll make a lot of excitement. And I mean Falter, sometimes I guess you could see, I'm not sure where he stands at, but I think if you probably give him an opportunity, I think both guys will be really exciting to watch.
It's exciting to see that the Phillies actually have arms, and depth at that position, because I think for a while, especially me, I have been saying we don't have enough quality arms, in this bullpen game. BS needs to go with the birds.
Right.
What do you guys think of the new rules that are in place? You guys have had a chance to watch some of these new rules enacted. What's your takeaway, Mike? What did you think?
I like them. I think. Listen, there was a game the other day that went 2 hours and 10 minutes. Stop and think about that, dude. They almost cut the game in half just because of this pitch clock. Now, the only thing I'm a little worried about is, certain guys had been doing things for so long a certain way. Like with Bryce being out, right? He's going to be coming back. And I heard this brought up on the radio, actually. Believe it or not, I was listening to Joe Giglio and Hugh Douglas. And Giglio brought up a good point. He said, Bryce does all this pre-things. He does all this stuff before he gets into the box. Like he waits for his music to play. He said, dude, he can't do that now. Right. Now he's got to go right up there and he's got to be ready to go. Because as you saw in the preseason game, a batter can be tossed out for doing it if he violates the pitch clock.
Yep.
So, it's really an interesting dynamic. And I remember the first game, matter of fact, it was the very first spring training game. It was a pitch clock violation on the batter. Can you imagine a World Series ending that way? You want to talk about Riots. Oh my.
Controversy.
Yeah.
But I tell you what,
Oh
I
man.
like that. I like the bases being bigger too. That means you got to have a catcher with a strong arm, and we got one of the best. So I'm feeling pretty confident there too.
Yeah.
It's interesting because like I sat down and I watched I think one of the first grapefruit games against the Yankees, and I got to be honest. So I was before I even started because they were talking about all the rule changes. Tom
Mhm.
McCarthy was talking about all the rule changes, and I sat there and I said, you know, if baseball just got, because I DVR a lot of my sports games just so I could catch up and analyze and whatnot.
Yep.
I said if baseball could get closer to like 2 hours and 30 minutes, which is basically what a Sixers game is, 2 hours and 30 minutes, and an Eagles game is like 2 hours and 40 minutes. I'm like, if they could float around there, I'm like, you're going to have a lot more of an audience because that's going to
Absolutely.
flow a lot faster, and you're not going to be just lingering on what's there.
And to
Yeah, you're
piggyback what you said there, Joe, I think the reason I think the other reason why that everybody likes these new rules like I do, I think I love the pitch clock rule, man. I think that's probably the best thing to happen to baseball. And it's like, games are going to be shorter, but the thing is though too, you're not going to be coming home at like say for example, like it's a 7 o'clock game, and you're not going to come home at around like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night. You still got plenty of night in front of you.
right. And then that's the other thing. Like they've already tested one thing out, and
Yeah.
it wasn't that bad where they started at like 6:30.
Hmm.
If they did something like that, you're talking about the possibility of you getting home by
By
like
9 o'clock.
by
By
nine
nine
thirty, 10
o'clock,
o'clock. Yeah.
like
So you can actually go to bed and get a good night's sleep rather than coming home at like 11:30, 12 o'clock and going, well, now I got to get up in 6 hours. And
Yeah, I
that's the
right,
think
thing.
I think the
exactly.
Phillies schedule. I think all of April is like 6:40.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Wow.
during the week, it's like six
Yeah.
forty. So you imagine a game 2.5 hours. You're looking 9 o'clock by the
Yeah.
time
You
you're
can
done.
watch
And
some of the hockey playoffs.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I mean, for me, like I like this time of the year because you still have you got the NFL new season kicking off. You got NHL and NBA playoffs. You got baseball starting to kick into full swing. Another
March
thing
Madness.
too, yeah, March Madness. Another thing too now, the World Baseball Classic's going to be on. So
Oh
now you're
yeah.
basically getting countries all-star teams playing against one another, which is going to be cool. So I mean, this is a really good time, really time of year to look at it. But Joe, I want to ask you a question on this with the Phillies. I personally feel like they really improved their bench this year. How do you guys feel about them with the additions of guys like Josh? Was it Josh?
Josh Harris. Josh
Josh
Harrison.
Harrison coming back. I love that pickup. I love the pickup of Craig Kimbrell
Campbell.
for the
Yep.
bullpen. Where do you feel like this bench is a little bit better now than it was a year ago?
I do and I don't.
Hmm.
I think Josh Harrison is a good addition, but I also feel like, and this is where I've kind of come down on Reese Hoskins is not going to be a Philly at the end of the year, because I feel like they'll take him and they'll trade him to get one or two pieces, one for, the outfield and one as a bench piece, and both good pieces. Because my feeling is you have a logjam at first
Hmm.
with talent. You have guys like Derek Hall that could play first, Alec Baum, Schwarber. You have guys like JT Realmuto that you could give him a reprieve at first. You have a logjam at first. So I feel like Reese is expendable. And I get that people go, well, you're going to miss his offense. I'm not saying you go and get like garbage pieces for him. You could go get a certifiable, hitter, like a professional hitter from the outfield that you don't have to lean so heavy on the guys that you had in the outfield like Martian and Schwarber and Castellanos. Because I worry about how far, like, you need professional hitters on the bench. You need guys, and I always go back to Matt Stairs. I go back to Matt Stairs and I go back to Greg Dobbs, both that were professional hitters. They come off the bench. They don't have to wait for like a pitcher to give them a 2-0 count to go green light. No, they go 0-0 and they wait for a fastball. They wait for their pitch and they make the pitcher pay, and that makes a good contributor. So to answer your question, like Josh Harrison's, it's a sexy little piece in the bullpen. I mean, in the bench, but I'm not yet impressed. I mean, because outside of him, like, what do you got? Like, what other is Sosa? He may be more um, positional as far as a defensive replacement more than an offensive replacement. I need more offensive replacements than defense. Not that I don't want a defensive replacement. I just don't. I want another uh, bat that got pop off the bench. That's what I want.
Gotcha.
Gotcha, man.
So my hope is Reese is not in Philly pinstripes, just because I feel like Derek Hall can come in and do something. I feel like there is a logjam at first, and I feel like you could bring in an outfielder. Um, Someone that I had thought of a couple times was Brantley, Michael Brantley.
Mm,
You could bring in somebody who can just be like a professional hitter. I did like Jock Peterson, but you're not going to be able to pay Jock. You're not going to be able to take on that contract.
right.
Um, so someone that could play the outfield, but is a professional hitter. Um, but speaking of players and this team, guys, I want you guys to give me. We're a couple weeks away from opening day. I want you guys to give me your opening day lineup.
Okay.
James, give me your opening day lineup.
All right. Well, first I'll go with Trey Turner leading off, and then that's going to be the obvious for me. Schwarber second. Um, that's going to be tough for third. Bohm third. I would say Alec Bohm third. Reese, I guess you can put in cleanup maybe. Fifth, you can put it. Why am I drawing a blank here, guys? Who's the center field? Actually, the center fielder will be down on the list. Shortstop. I say
JT. You forgot JT.
JT. There you go. Thank you. There we go. JT cleaning up. Reese batting fifth. Sixth, I'll be batting
Castellanos.
Castellanos. Yep. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank here, guys. Forgive me. Seventh, I will bat. Hmm. Oh shit.
You got Marsh, Stott, and
Yeah, we'll put Marsh at seventh and Stott at seventh and Marsh at eighth, and the designated hitter will be whoever.
right.
Sorry about that.
Mike, who do you have as your starting lineup?
My starting lineup. You want me to do the batting order too, or what? My
Yeah,
batting order? Okay.
Starting lineup for opening day.
Starting lineup. Leading off, Trey Turner, shortstop. Batting second, I would have Kyle Schwarber batting second, playing left field. Third, I would put Reese at your number 3. 4, you put JT Realmuto. 5, Nick Castellanos. 6, Alec Bohm. 7, Stott. 8th would be eighth. I guess eighth would be eighth would be Brandon Marsh, and ninth would be like Josh Harrison as your DH.
Right.
So I kind of go a bit of a different route, and I know. So here's the thing: I've been back and forth with Matty B about this since last season, and I said if we get Trey Turner, he's the leadoff. Period. End of sentence. And with Kyle Schwarber being the Schwarberian and being the home run king, the idea that he had that many home runs but had less than 100 RBIs is just it's an indictment. I'm going to change this perspective right now, and I'm going to go. My starting lineup is Trey Turner, your leadoff. I have Alec Baum at my 2 because Alec Baum at one point in time for a stretch was batting 300 for the Philadelphia Phillies, so I want him at number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Then I want the Schwarberian at 3.
Okay.
I want JT at 4, Reese at 5, Castellanos at 6, Stott at 7, Marsh at 8, and then my DH or Josh Harrison at 9. And I feel like whether it's Josh Harrison or somebody else, I feel like this is going to be that 9 hole is going to be just as valued as the number 1 because you need to have a good turnover on that lineup to get back to Trey Turner because if these guys eat like we all think they can, it's going to be. I mean, Ricky Botalico said this on the best show ever. He said that this team has a potential with this roster of breaking records offensively for MLB, and I completely agree. And you putting Schwarber there now. Let's keep something in perspective. We're saying this is the opening day starter with Josh Harrison being your 9. Just keep in mind who's going to be taking Josh Harrison's spot in that lineup come July. That's
Right.
going to be Bryce Harper. That's going to make all the difference.
In the world.
So we're going to transition, and I'll kind of hand over the table to you guys because I know you guys need to get some things off your chest. We're going to talk Philadelphia Flyers.
Oh, jeez.
Your Philadelphia Flyers had a trade deadline, and it's come and gone. And my 2 cohorts right here are not very happy with the present state of affairs. For
Oh,
the
I'm
Flyers.
glad. You kidding me? I'm having chills up and down my spine, dude. I'm
So
just kidding. God forbid.
considering I know Mike will start out with the fervor. Let's get the fervor going. Get it lathered up real nice.
Yeah, brother.
Mike,
It's plain and simple for me. Chuck Fletcher got to go. And Comcast, sell the team. Just please sell the team.
Really?
They have to. And listen, Flyer fans, if you want to make a difference, if you own season tickets, don't renew them. Okay? This is how you send a message to the team. Do not renew your season tickets. The people who are standing behind, who are waiting in line to buy these tickets, why would there be a waiting list anyway to go down there and see this garbage? I told people the other night, on my show the other night, you want to go see good hockey? Drive an hour to Allentown and go see the Phantoms.
Amen.
At least they're young kids that are trying. This crap that's down there at the Wells Fargo Center, buddy, you couldn't give me free tickets to go. You could give me free tickets and parking and a sandwich, and I still wouldn't go down there and watch it. And I covered a team. I covered a team for this network. And you know how hard it is to watch? And then you got a bozo like Chuck Fletcher who does nothing on draft day. You got 92-year-old JVR that you can get rid of for a bag of pucks and some new netting, and you don't do it. You got a pretty decent defenseman, an offensive defenseman, and Ivan Provorov that could get you something back. You do nothing. Like, I'm tired of it. It's been 50 years since you guys won a Stanley Cup. This lore of the 70s, that 70s shine has dulled. 50 years, okay? The end of this year, that ring that has the Flyers' last championship comes off the Stanley Cup. It's a distant memory now. So how about this, Comcast? If you ain't going to do something with the team, then sell it to somebody who will. Like I said, Flyers, you want your voice being heard? Season ticket holders, don't re-up your season tickets. Tell them, no, I'm not seeing that garbage. You know, and that's what it is. It's garbage. You let the New York Rangers come down here in that building and turn that building blue? Ed Snyder ain't doing turns in his graves. My man is doing cartwheels. I'm serious.
I know you are, man. I don't blame you, man. I don't blame you.
It was a sea. It looked like I was staring into the ocean. There was so much blue in that building.
Oh my God.
I will tell you this. So years ago, back when Mr. Snyder was still alive and still running the team, I had season tickets. And yeah, they didn't have a great season. And we've gone on record about that. However, they were still packing the joint. And they would have never let happen what happened against that Rangers game. Now, the Rangers game that I went to during that season, I've never been, I guess, witness to that rivalry. For right in my face. I went to the men's room and I go there and I'm at the urinal and two Ranger fans step up next to me and I'm sandwiched between two Rangers fans and I look to either side and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna do my business and leave. And literally the one guy's like, sucks that you guys suck this year. And I'm like, okay. And I didn't even have to say anything because there was 10 other Flyers fans in that bathroom. I left. Literally, there was a melee in the men's room.
Oh,
Oh man.
it's no different. It's no different if you go to MSG. I've been in MSG wearing a Flyers jersey, and I would, they would look and be like, oh, especially if you sit up top, like with the
Yeah,
blue shirts on.
yeah.
You
That's
sit up
where my
top.
seats were. Mm-hmm.
No. I'm talking about at MSG. You go to Madison Square Garden, sit up top where the blue shirts sit. I was
Right.
in that. I was in that area, man, and like they're just as rough as we are. And I'll tell you, dude, they were giving it to me, but I turned around and told him, like, one dude's like, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna throw you off of here, and I just looked at him. I said, if you think you're big and bad enough to come do it, buddy, come do it. I said, if not, sit down and hold my beer.
My wife is not the biggest of sports enthusiasts, but when we had the season tickets, my wife got into hockey, and we
Mhm.
we were in kind of the upper deck. If you know who the dancing Flyers fan guy
Yes,
is,
yes.
Oh yeah,
we
I remember.
we 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 were two sections away from him, so like we would walk over to him during some of the games. Well, my wife, this is back when Nitamaki was still the goaltender.
Oh god.
And uh, my wife, who is soft as a flower, wouldn't hurt a fly kind of thing, turns into a different beast when she goes to a hockey game. My daughter is getting into the sports scene because she sees me watching it all the time. So she recognizes what the Flyers logo looks like. She recognizes what all the sports symbols look like, the logos
Nice.
look like. So we're giving my daughter a bath the other night, and Peyton goes. My daughter says, "Once I want to go to a Flyers game." I said, "You can go to a Flyers game with me, but you're not allowed to go with your mother." And my wife looks at me and goes, "Why?" I was like, "Because you have the worst potty mouth when it comes down. I mean, you made people in the nosebleeds cringe." And I'm like, that's not easy to do. There were some expletives that were thrown out that I think Ninamaki was blushing at. He's like,
Oh.
yo, lay off. Like, there was, I mean, put it this way, your partner says some things that you shouldn't hear on a sports talk show. My wife has said things at a Flyers game that you shouldn't hear unless it was like for mature audiences only
Yeah,
kind of thing.
I tried to tell Al to change the listing to mature because of Pat, but Al just rolls with it, and
Yeah.
I have a rule. I tell Pat, you can get on your spiel, but I have to have this much of my iced coffee or coffee drunk
Yeah.
before you start, and it's just the rule. Sometimes
Yeah.
Pat's just a very excitable dude.
Yeah.
That's the only way I could describe him. But guys, listen, I got to get off because I have some things I got to run and do, guys. But it was a pleasure being on with you guys.
Yes.
Hopefully, one of these days, you guys are in studio. Invite me over there. I'm like 5 minutes away.
Yeah.
But James, Joe, it was a pleasure. And,
Thank you.
Anytime, man. We
Yep.
really do appreciate it, man.
And 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, guys. You can log on and make comments.
You
Just
know it,
saying.
brother.
Like
Yeah.
I don't ever see Mr. I don't see the Hammer commenting on our show. You gotta go on there. He's Polo Pat tomorrow. I don't even know what color polo he's going to wear tomorrow. That's his new nickname is Polo Pat. So
Polo pad.
Only,
Guys, I
only
love you.
person I know that shows up to a live event for Eagles playoff game wearing the opposing team's colors.
Oh,
yes,
God.
I told you. Listen, he's not the brightest bulb, but he still shines.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, Mike. We're
Thank
gonna
you
wrap
again,
it up
brother. We
here
really
soon.
do appreciate it.
Take
Man.
care, guys. I'll talk to you all later.
You got it, man.
James, I will let you, before we say goodbye, I will let you get out what you need to get out. First off, I have to ask, because I haven't really been keeping up with the lack of transactions
Yeah.
that have been happening with the Flyers. But did I hear correctly that we traded Roostalainen?
I do not know,
Okay.
but
I
but
wasn't sure if that was just a rumor or not. Like I
it,
heard Roosevelt for a first round.
I'll
So
be honest with you. I won't be as upset because I thought I wish I would have done better. I wish I thought I would have seen better from Rasmus, but yeah, I mean I gotta go. I gotta check that out, and if they definitely did trade Rasmus, that's kind of a big, hefty contract they gave up, and you just gave him away for basically nothing. I'm gonna be like, what the hell are you doing, man?
how do you feel about this team?
Oh God, where do I begin? Um,
Because
so
for anybody who's new to listening to us, James is the Flyers aficionado specialist,
yeah,
and it's been a hard run for a while for James.
dude, I mean, I just want some clarity in my life with this team, man, because it's just like every time when I'm watching this team, I can't watch them. It's like I feel like every time when I'm watching the game, I feel like, okay, how are they going to screw this up tonight? And it turns out 95 times out of 10 or 100 or whatever you want to call it, it it just drives me crazy that yesterday that the only pick you bring in, the only player you bring in, you let go of Zach McEwen. Oh, by the way, oh, I
Good.
just lost my mic.
That's the guy. Yeah. See, he gets so irate, people, he drops his microphone.
Oh, yeah, that was Chuck, man. That was Chuck cutting my phone off. That was Chuck on my mic. Anyway, no, my adapter fell out. No, but I don't even know where to begin anymore with this team, dude. I feel so bad for John Tortorella. It's not even funny that he comes into this mess and he's like, I gotta coach these guys, or like I feel like I'm what he feels like. I can't even describe it how angry I am because if I describe how angry I am, I'm going to be here all show. I'm going to be here all day because it's just like, I mean, like I said, with Brandon Lemieux coming into Philadelphia, it's like it's not Mario Lemieux's brother or cousin or son or whatever you want to call it. It's Claude Lemieux's kid. Claude Lemieux, who was a knucklehead for years, is on this NHL team. Oh, and by the way, he's another goon. Oh, wonderful. That's beautiful, Chuck. But when the hell are you going to wake up and bring in real talent? John Klingberg, who I loved from the Dallas Stars days, I remember watching his stuff from Dallas. A great defenseman that he will be in this town. I think he will be the next Eric Desjardins if that was the case. Where does he go? Minnesota. The other guy that the Flyers should have brought in, and the only player that you could have brought in that Detroit deal, and I was like saying to myself, wait, so the only player you're going to trade JVR, like the Detroit trading deal, whoever it was it Tarasenko? No. Was it Patrick Kane? Nope. You know who it was? It was Oscar Sundquist. Who the hell is Oscar Sundquist? I haven't heard his name in God knows when.
I
I
didn't
mean,
know he was
the
still in
only
the
time I
league.
remember was with Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I didn't even know he was still in the league.
I mean, I don't even know who he was too. Oh, but it's probably because like he probably had some good workers comp and stuff to come into the game. But I don't even know, Joe. I can't even fathom what this team. I mean, 10 years. Sorry, not actually no. 10 years ago was actually still a better team. I mean, they were going down the rabbit hole with Briskalov, but they still were fun to watch. I still watched every minute of it. I mean, 13 years ago was still the best time of my life.
It's amazing to me because I go back in time and I say, not that long ago, we had a coach like Laviolette. Not that
Yes.
long ago, we had a
Yes.
GM like, uh, with Hextall and all of those guys.
Right.
So, say what you want to say about how bad or good Hextall made things and whether
He
Chuck
still made it
Fletcher,
better than it was. I mean,
right.
other than Braden Shen going for a scrub, I remember like it was yesterday. I got a text message from my uncle
Right.
and said like, "Oh, like dude, they just traded away Braden Shen," and I
Yeah.
was like, "What?
So,
Why you? What the? Oh,
yeah, so here's where I go with this.
fire
Um,
away.
I agree with Mike in the sense that they need to be sold because
Yes.
I think ownership does not know what they're doing, and unfortunately, the one owner that did is no longer with us. And I
Right.
think that we need a guy that has a good hockey mind, a person that's not just going to look at it from the dollars and cents perspective.
You
Number
know,
two, I feel like this obviously Chuck Fletcher needs to go.
yeah,
And I also think that for as much as people might think this is a lost cause of a team,
yeah,
it's not. It's just a matter of we're a rudderless ship, as Frank Finnegan would say.
yep.
We
Ship
don't
up and
have
shape out.
we don't have a direction.
No,
Once we figured out what that direction is, we just build towards it. Think
Mhm.
about the Sixers. When we went through the process, what was the point? The point was to
Right.
find key star athletes that stand out. You
Yep.
found it in Joel Embiid. We thought we found it with Ben
Absolutely.
Simmons. We know we found it with Tyrese Maxey.
Right.
There are things that when you bomb, you need to figure out, okay, are we making mistakes? You're gonna make some, but minimize how much you do. And I'll be honest, I've always said this in jest, and obviously I haven't done it yet, but I've always said this in jest. With all those big Mega Millions and Powerball jackpots, I always say if I ever win one of those, I'm buying a sports franchise, no matter where and what. I'm buying a sports franchise. Why? Because I want to be able to I want to be the one that cares about that fan base, not just one of these,
Exactly.
stuck up owners that just worries about the dollars and cents.
It's all about
I want,
it's a money grab. That's what it is nowadays, man.
yeah, and unfortunately, I mean, to counter what like I've heard from Mike about the buy or selling the team,
Please do.
wouldn't it be nice for Josh Harris to buy the Philadelphia Flyers?
Oh God. Oh God.
I'm just throwing it out there.
No, no.
I
I
mean,
mean, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm just. I mean, it could be a possibility, but I would. You know who I want? I want a guy that actually that was like a minor league affiliate. I don't know if anybody. This is how big of a hockey encyclopedia I am. Kevin Sheladayoff from the Winnipeg Jets for years. I remember he used to bring in AHL, and everyone's going to tell me it's AHL, but I don't care. He brought an AHL franchise like the Chicago Wolves and brought in a boatload of talent that was so cool that he actually did that. And I'm like, you brought in like a bunch of guys that I never even heard of and turning them into studs. Look what he's doing right now with Winnipeg. He brought in Rick Bonus. I forget his name. I forget how to say his name, but he's like the John Anderson of this team. Like he's got
yeah.
this team to where they are now. I mean, Kyle Connor reminds me so much of what the Chicago Wolves had back in the 2008 year and the 98. I mean, basically he has a good resume of winning championships, and especially in the minor leagues. You need to realize something. If Sheladayoff is there in the free agency, let's say, for example, he steps down from Winnipeg, I'm giving Sheladayoff a call and say, hire this man because this guy can help a team become this team could win with him as the GM or whatever the case is.
I don't disagree with you at all because I remember back in the day when the Flyers were really thriving.
Yeah.
You had the Phantoms in the Calder Cup
Right.
very frequently. Very, very frequently. And there's a reason for that. When you build your minor league system to be such a strength,
Yeah.
you
It was
don't
against
have
Sheladayoff's Wolves too.
right. You don't have to worry so much about now. It doesn't hurt to have these guys, but like a Patrick Kane or a
Right.
Tarasenko,
Yeah.
those guys will come when they see the young talent rise up. But you have to
Right.
have the young talent rise up to garner that attention. And I look at like the guys like John Leclerc and Mikael Rumberg and a
Yep.
lot of guys like Jeremy Roenick and Denny Briere and stuff
Yarmir
like
Yager, man. We had Yarmir Yager
right.
and he's still playing, dude.
These guys are stars.
Yes,
but they
sir.
came here because they saw a young core.
Yes, sir.
They saw a young core that they could attribute to and build from.
Yep.
Build up.
Yep.
So Chuck needs to sell the farm
or ship his ass out of here.
Yeah. And there was something before we get out of here. The
Mhm.
one thing that Matty B said on EOP was really prophetic.
Mm.
And it was, I don't want Chuck. I want Chuck fired, but I don't want Chuck making these moves.
No,
And there's a reason.
no,
He's
I
like,
got you.
I don't want him to mess it up
True.
because he'll get like a bag of eggs
Mhm.
when he should be getting a bag of gold.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. He doesn't want to be the Clintac of the Philadelphia Flyers. But that's going to do it for our show today. Everybody, thank you for joining us. James, great job. Thanks for to Mike Laurel for joining us today. We will be back next week for Tom Kelly, Frank Finnegan, Damon Salim, Mike Laurel, James Scourge, and myself, Joe Marks. We are the Pattison at Fanatics, and we are out.
Later.